right, we're back Wednesday, September 21st. Sports Bit. Betting Insight today. Paulie and Teddy, big game breakdown. Ooh, the Texans and the Patriots. TCU, SMU, and USC, Utah. Did a player punch the coach in the face? We'll get to that, and we'll revisit Squares versus the Sharps in the deep dive. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books coming up. Teddy, you'll never see this again. I don't care if you live to be 100. The Texas Rangers win again. They improved to 37-10 in one-run games.
Yeah, that's the best in Major League history.
Yep.
That's the best in Major League history. Okay, so we're not planning on seeing it again anytime soon. The question that we have to ask, though, is how much of this carries over into the postseason? Because Texas obviously looks like they're going to win the AL West, barring some type of a complete nightmare over the back the back 2 weeks of the season. But 37-10 in one-run games, and some of that has to do with the fact their bullpen hasn't been very good. So bigger leads have shrunk, like it did last night. But can that hold, Paul? I mean, is there any chance that the Rangers can win a World Series or win even a single playoff series just by virtue of their success winning these tight games?
Yes, because the offense is so good. But you're right, it is three things. It's the bullpen turning 4- and 3-run leads into 1-run leads. It's also a little bit of luck. But it's a cliche, but it's finding a way to win. I mean, this is incredible that you're 37-10 and can win all these close games. And I like them to come out of the American League when you go Hamels and Darvish to start in a good offense, although the Red Sox are playing great ball too. But, it is shocking how bad the bullpen is, though, with that kind of record. First American League team to 90 wins.
Yeah, and that tells me, when you have a bullpen like the Rangers bullpen, it tells me that Texas isn't going anywhere in the postseason. And Boston, the team to beat in the American League.
Okay, very good there. Bad beats and bad bets. Bad bets, the Orioles, a game that hurt my feelings. Gossman, he'd been on a roll. They bet him up to $1.50. Big Poppy with another home run. And Rodriguez pitched well for the Red Sox.
But what did we tell you yesterday on SportsBit? We said this is a red flag start for Kevin Gossman because he had a 120-pitch effort, a career high in his previous outing. And guess what? He wasn't good. He gave up 5 runs on 10 hits over 6 1/3. And that was the difference in the ball game. The pitch counts, when a guy throws a career high in September, it's as big a red flag as you can get. Certainly was for Baltimore yesterday, even though the markets didn't seem to be paying any attention at all.
That's a record for Ortiz, his 36th home run, most for a guy in his final season. Going to get some MVP votes. What a year for Big Poppy. Bad for the books. The Marlins. Hey, Fernandez at home throws another gem, Teddy.
Yeah. I mean, again, the numbers don't lie. It doesn't matter how they price him. He was bet up from 145 to 175 on Tuesday. Didn't matter. Just brilliant. 12-2 for the season with a .163 ERA at home. We've been talking about his home road splits all year, and all of a sudden the Marlins are in position. They're not dead yet. 500 team, and they're still very much alive in the wild card race.
Yep, and bad for the books, the Pirates. Money on the Pirates who got the job done.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it was anti-Brewer money, pro-Pittsburgh money. Milwaukee didn't really show up for that game. Pirates opened pick'em, closed 125, led wire to wire. Not a good result for the house.
Key line moves. We'll get to this game in a few minutes. It was pick, it was 3, it was back to pick, then it was 1. Money coming in on Houston now. You saw some New England money with the Garoppolo news where some people thought, hey, he's back at practice. There's also a report that came out from the Boston Herald that the Patriots are pressuring Garoppolo at least to be the backup if something happens to Brissett because they don't want Edelman to go in there. Ed Edelman's the emergency quarterback right now.
Yeah, he is. And New England decided that they were not going to cut someone to sign another quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, it's an odd situation, but let's talk about the line move. We'll talk about the game when it comes to big game breakdown in just a moment. The line move was Patriots money, and it was all Garoppolo in practice. Garoppolo's in practice, bang. There's a pretty significant differential in the markets right now between Garoppolo and Brissett. Garoppolo priced closer to Brady, Brissett priced closer to nobody. But the bottom line is that the market's not believing in New England's third stringer. But then Garoppolo's in practice, boom, Patriots bets start flying in. It doesn't look like he's going to play. Then back up to Houston -1 and even 1.5 as we speak, Paulie.
Look at this, some faith in Carson Wentz. A great matchup Sunday, one of the late games. Pittsburgh in Philly. You got some Eagles money there. And Tampa Bay, they like the Buccaneers as it's a tough spot for the Rams. They don't believe in their offense. I don't either, and they got to travel cross country.
Yeah, and this is a situation, again, where we like to point out some of these moves to give you the opportunity, bet now versus bet later. If you like Philadelphia, I would grab the plus 3.5 right now. That number might not be there by kickoff. For as much as the Steelers are a public team, for as much as everyone seems to like Pittsburgh right now, Philadelphia at 2-0 coming off a Monday Night Football blowout. As home dogs, they will attract some betting attention. And Tampa, I mean, this one I'm confident this number is going to keep going up. It's as high as minus 5.5 now. The markets definitely do not like the spot for L.A. The Rams, of course, it's not an early start game. It is a West Coast team traveling east, but it's not an early start game. That being said, they've always been, or not always, but for the last 20 years or 30 years, they've been the St. Louis Rams traveling east. Now the L.A. Rams traveling east. That is a difference, and the markets have noted that.
Don't expect any under money in these two games. Chargers, Colts, and the Monday night game, Atlanta, New Orleans.
Yeah, two highest totals on the board, the two totals in the 50s. And I'm telling you, the only one that's betting unders in these two ball games are going to be wise guys. You may see some sharp money because the sharps hate betting over 52 and over 54 and those type of numbers in the NFL. They won't do it. But other than that, there's not going to be under money. So if you like Colts Chargers over, if you like the Monday Night Football Saints Falcons over, again, not going to hurt you to bet those games early. Those totals aren't going down.
A sincere thank you from the bottom of my heart. We've been telling you guys, spread the word. You've been doing that. You've been very loyal. Between the daily videos, the big game breakdown split into single game videos, we're getting close to 10,000 views a day. I know it, you know it. This show should be on television, and thanks to the great crew that puts the show together. But Teddy was yelling at you a couple times, and good for him. But we're getting close to 10,000 views a day. Thank you very much, and thanks for coming back and watching every day.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's the truth of it. This show isn't going to be a second-tier show, okay? The goal of doing it every day and of putting the time and effort that we put into this show is to eventually be able to sell some advertising, perhaps to be able to get this on TV somewhere. You can help us help you. Keep spreading the word that 10,000 views is a key number when it comes to online metrics. So thank you. We're approaching. We're not there yet.
Can't wait for this game. We start with the Texans and the Patriots coming up next, and two key college games on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts. Shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
All right, time for Big Game Breakdown. As always, live on SportsbookReview.com. Thursday night, you have the Texans and the Patriots as we tape this early Wednesday morning. Houston won, 40.5 the total. And again, the Patriots haven't signed anybody to back up Brissett, so Edelman's the emergency quarterback. One problem, if he gets in the game, he can't throw the ball to himself, Teddy. Belichick's going to play games with this, too, about will Garoppolo be able to go if something happens with an injury?
Yeah, let's talk about this tweet from SBR Sports Picks. Pats 11-1 ATS as a home dog since 2001. So certainly the track record is there for New England in the Brady/Belichick era. They've been pretty good in this role. But, yeah, it's a big issue. I mean, Edelman can throw passes to himself. He just has to be batted first. So I guess he could. But, I mean, how often do you start a game with your handicap saying, well, who's the backup quarterback going to be? I mean, I'm not overly concerned with the backup situation for New England. Because guess what? If you're betting the Pats and Brissett gets knocked out of the game, you're probably in bad shape anyway. You know, in my mind, it's not a difference maker. Now, Garoppolo, as you mentioned, was a limited participant in Tuesday practice, but that might be Belichick playing games. Belichick's been known to do a fair bit of gamesmanship in his day. And, Jacoby Brissett, the markets don't look at Brissett as being a guy who's NFL ready. He has all the physical tools, but a lot of questions as to whether he can call the game and make the reads at the line of scrimmage.
And I don't know what's going to happen with Gronk either. He could use Gronk. Now, they went conservative when he came in the game for obvious reasons. One, no snaps. He didn't take any snaps in training camp because you got to get Brady ready and Garoppolo. And number two, they had a 28-point lead against the Dolphins, and LeGarrette Blount was running the ball so well, so there was no need to add any points as well.
Yeah, I mean, but you made a key point there. Brissett, 0 snaps, not one snap with the first stringers in training camp because the Patriots were in a unique situation. They had to get 2 quarterbacks ready, neither of which was Brissett. And now you got to come up, you have 3 days to come up with a game plan for a quarterback who didn't play in a pro-style offense in college. Remember, his offensive coordinator from NC State got fired after his senior season. And the thing that makes Brissett so dangerous, at least at the college level, he's a dual threat QB. He can run out of the pocket. He can make plays with his legs. But if he's the only healthy quarterback, you can't use his run dimension that same way, because if he gets hurt, the ball game over. And of course, there's one other factor worth noting with Jacoby Brissett. Will he be too distracted by J.J. Watt and company not to see the whole field?
That is a nasty defense. As far as the Texans, I like Osweiler a lot. He's still learning the offense, but he's got some weapons. Will Fuller's been the real deal. Wide receiver, 5 20-yard plus catches the first 2 weeks, so the defense can't focus exclusively on Hopkins. But having said that, they haven't been able to get Lamar Miller going, only averaging 3.6 yards per carry with his longest run of 12 yards. Are they a little bit overrated, Teddy, considering they beat the Bears and the Chiefs at home and the Chiefs had injuries?
I think they might be. But certainly there's a lot to like about the offense right now with Fuller. Osweiler, still a young quarterback, making correct reads against a Belichick defense could be an issue. Excuse me. Woo! But with Fuller on one side and Hopkins on the other, all of a sudden now you've got deep threats going on both sides, which makes Lamar Miller's production that much of a concern, that much bigger of a concern for me, because you got 2 deep threats and you're feeding the ball to your back. You're supposed to be able to break off some long gainers. Hasn't happened at all. As you mentioned, his long gain of the season, just 12 yards. But you asked if the Texans are a little bit overrated. And again, after week 2, they might be, because all you have is their first 2 opponents to look at. And look, they had the Bears week 1, and the Bears have been an overvalued commodity in early season play. They were overvalued in the preseason as well. They faced the Chiefs week 2, KC minus both starting guards, and they couldn't control the line of scrimmage in that game. The Pats, too, have had some offensive line injuries and attrition, but they certainly haven't had an issue at the line of scrimmage thus far, although that could change against Houston's powerful front 4.
Game number 2, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. College now, TCU, SMU, TCU 21, 63.5 the total. No home field advantage here. Short bus ride for TCU players, and they might have half the crowd there at the game. Kenny Hill, the A&M transfer, good fit in the TCU offense. Turnover's been an issue, especially in that Arkansas game. They let that one get away, should have won. The 28-yard field goal blocked, a touchdown called back, and Hill had a big penalty with the throat slash gesture after a touchdown.
Yeah, his stats are real good so far. 65% completions, over 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air, 6 touchdowns on the ground, 166 rushing yards. But he did have the 3 INTs. He had the, as you mentioned, key penalty in the loss to Arkansas. And this week, one guy he won't have, Gavante Turpin. He leads the team with 16 catches for 196 yards. Although, I got to say, when I worry about positions with depth, wide receiver depth is not an issue for TCU, even without their leading guy.
This is a conundrum for many teams in college football. We've discussed on SportsBit, Teddy. SMU head coach Chad Morris, he wants to go fast, get his system in there, but in doing so, he doesn't have the talent, and that could mean you could get run out as a result, playing fast.
Well, yeah, the big issue for SMU is that they've lost their quarterback. Matt Davis out for the year, and his replacement is a freshman, Ben Hicks, and this is his first major challenge. And even facing much lesser defenses than TCU's, Hicks has been pretty spotty so far. 41 of 85, just 48% completions, 583 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's not a good ratio. And SMU as a team, they've been moving the ball fine between the 20s. They get in the red zone, the offense is bogged down. How about this? 17 red zone possessions, only 3 touchdowns. There has been a little bit of SMU money. I guess the markets expect that to improve.
Yes, one more game, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. A good one Friday night. USC at Utah. Utah 3, 46.5 the total. USC has become a dumpster fire. They chose Sarkisian over Peterson. Think about that. And then they promoted Clay Helton and gave him a 5-year deal. Since they removed the interim tag, he has 1 win, and it doesn't stop there. Did an offensive lineman, E.J. Price, punch him in the face? Internet conjecture here. People close to the program say it didn't happen. They are calling the transfer due to homesickness. He's from Georgia, so he left, and you could see a mass exodus of guys leaving the program now.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of internet rumors yesterday. Let's just put it that way. The internet was going nuts. They were talking about Max Brown, who just got demoted as a starting quarterback, transferring. They were talking about Juju Smith declaring it for the NFL draft as soon as the season was over. You're talking about the wide receiver and the cornerback, Keyshawn Pye Young, as a guy who might transfer. And after all this said, the only guy who officially transferred was the freshman, E.J. Price, the offensive lineman, who was rumored to have punched Helton in the face. Helton denied the rumors. Price denied the rumors. From all indications, it didn't happen. That being said, the internet likes to get excited about things, and the USC locker room right now has stuff that people can get excited about because from all indications, there is turmoil within that locker room right now. As much as they loved Clay Helton last year, not convinced they love him quite as much this year.
And two terrible job, bad offense against Alabama and especially on the road against Stanford. So a quarterback change. Brown is out, Darnold's in, and did he rush this decision because he's got to go on the road against a good defense, and Utah would have had an easy win against BYU, but they kept turning the ball over.
It's a little bit baffling, this QB change at this time when you're benching the number one QB prospect in the country, a guy who was rated higher than Jared Goff coming out of high school. And you wonder, Sam Darnold might be happy that Helton's giving him the starting job, but maybe he wants to punch Helton in the face afterwards because you don't give a guy his first start on the road at Utah. He's a legit prospect and a guy who Helton could build around. But I just wonder, after this week, they've got home games versus 2 weak defenses, Arizona State, Colorado. Over the next 2 weeks, that might be the time to get your young, talented NFL prospect QB into the fold, and you play the veteran in a game like this where against Utah, you're going to face a defense that's absolutely going to smash you in the mouth.
Here's a quote from Max Brown, taking the demotion in stride. Quote, "I know how these things work. Usually once the young guy goes, you know how it is, but I'll be ready. I owe it to my teammates," end quote. He's already graduated, a year of eligibility left. He'll be shopping for a transfer, can play immediately anywhere next year. Interesting total here, and again, I would look to the under, just like at BYU Utah when we previewed that game. How about the skill position players with Utah? Any firepower on this offense?
Well, it's kind of a funny matchup. Funny is not the right word. It's an interesting matchup. USC weakness is offensive line and defensive line. And that's the Utah strength. So Utah is supposed to be able to control the trenches in this ballgame. We see them do that on a consistent basis so far this season. USC strength is all skill position talent. The Utah weakness is skill position talent, but they did show some promise last week against San Jose State. Now, admittedly, San Jose State's not USC, but still, the Frost running back, Zach Moss, he ran for a long touchdown. The senior wide receiver, Tim Patrick, both of them had big play, outrun the defense touchdowns, and that is a positive sign for a Utah team that has looked to be a little bit lacking in the skill position talent department, at least through the first few weeks of the season.
Play of the day will come from this game coming up. Up next, we revisit squares versus sharps and that play of the day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Hey everyone, tune into the Odds Couple Show for today, Wednesday, September 21st. Mike Brenner and I are chugging along. He had a winner yesterday. All my leans won yesterday, except I didn't have the ball. Have the balls to give him.
The
but that's
no
okay,
balls lean.
because I do share the leans in this show, and that's the important part. Mike Brenner, you psyched for today's show?
I am. I got one special play, and it's not missing.
Excellent.
Come on over.
Wrapping it up on SportsBit, Betting Insight today, Paulie and Teddy at Paulie Howard on Twitter at Teddy_covers. All right, you wanted to revisit this, Teddy. We're doing pros, Joes again.
Yes, I did, Paul. And the reason I wanted to revisit it, of course, it was on one show. We had a bunch of technical issues that day. The show came out really late. And I continue to get questions on Twitter. Who do the pros like? Who's the sharp money on? Who are the Joes like? Who are the square? What are the square bets? Teddy, you like a square side. What's up with that? As if there's something intrinsically or inherently wrong with being with the public. Now, there's a ton of differences between pros and Joes. That being said, I have no problems being on a square side if I think the square side is the right side. I have no problems being on a sharp side if I think the sharp side is the right side. The two sides look at things differently. What we're trying to do on this segment is to explain the difference in the thought processes between pros and Joes. If you're looking to improve your handicapping, obviously, you'd like to be, into your thought process, more like a pro than like a Joe.
Number one, my favorite Jimmy Vaccaro line. The public bets teams Professionals bet numbers.
Yeah, and that's the absolute truth of it. I mean, when I go to a meeting every Tuesday called the Tuesday Group. It's a legendary group here in Vegas, a bunch of old-timers who've been betting since before I was born. And every single comment around the table is, I got so-and-so at plus 6.5. I got so-and-so at minus 2.5. It's never, I got so-and-so. It's always, I got them at this number. And there are a ton of games, every week we talk about, well, who do the Sharps like? Well, the Sharps liked whoever, but they liked them before the line moved 3 points ago. No question that Sharps are much more interested in the actual number that they're getting than your casual bettors, your recreational players.
Number 2, don't overreact to the last thing you saw. Don't just go based on what the last thing you saw was.
And let's just take a look at Arizona-Buffalo in the NFL this week as your classic example. Oh, my God, the Bills just got smacked. Oh, my God, Arizona just looked great. What? The line's coming on Buffalo? And I talked to a couple of guys who are amateur bettors this week. How the heck can the money go? What? How? Wow, what? It doesn't even make any sense why the money would come on Buffalo in their minds. What's going to happen is that pros are going to expect variance from what they saw last week. It's not the team that you saw every single week. It's what team you're going to get this week. That's what the Sharps are concentrating on.
Joe's want to bet, we can tie these two together. Joe's want to bet on TV games, and they also the get out game or get even with Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and when it comes to pros, pros could care less if it's on TV or not. They're going to bet wherever they have an edge. And again, that's just, are you betting for recreation? Hey, there's something on TV, let's throw a couple of bucks. That's fine. But if you're serious about winning, you're going to bet where you have an edge, not because it's on TV. And of course, the whole Monday night thing. Let's put it this way. Pros don't bet double or nothing ever. Whether they're up or whether they're down. It just doesn't happen.
All right, don't blow your bankroll on one game, a mistake the Joes make, because, the pros you have to withstand a losing streak, because at some point you're going to hit a skid.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter if you're the best bettor in the world or the worst bettor in the world. Everybody is going to have slumps. Everybody's going to have hot streaks. The question is, can you withstand a slump? I've seen guys who consider themselves to be, they're recreational players, but they're serious recreational players. And if they have a bad weekend, they're out of business, because they're betting 10 and 20 and 30% of their bankroll in any given game. Everyone's going to have a skid. The key is, if you protect your bankroll, if you bet a smaller percentage of that bankroll, you can withstand those skids, and be standing on the other side.
Joes ignore sample sizes and only bet when they have time.
Yeah, and the pros do the database research, and I'm not talking to everybody, but time is the key issue here. All right, Joes are going to bet when they have time. They're not going to do a whole lot of research. And the pros, of course, they're going to monitor lines all week. That's one of the things we try to do here on SportsBet. Say, hey, if you want to bet this game, bet it now. You want to bet that side, wait till later. Hopefully that can help you be more like a pro. When it comes to database research, there are a handful of really good websites out there that will help you find good information that's not necessarily team-based, but league-based. That's where your best trends come from.
And pros are monitoring line moves, the lines rather, all week.
Sure. You got a live odds screen on pretty much 24/7.
Uh-huh.
We all have it.
Yep, the Joes go crazy with the luck factor. I got beat on a Hail Mary. I got beat on a 4th and 20, and so on.
Yeah, and of course, the luck factor's allowed to drive you crazy. But what it's not, it's, oh my God, I can't believe that they got stopped from the 1-inch line. They were first to goal, or oh my God, you see the pick six at the end of the game and it killed my underbet. They're going to happen. You're going to take bad beats, just like the slumps, just like hot streaks. Going to happen over the course of a season. You're going to take a bad beat, or 2, or 3, or 5, or be unlucky for a month straight. You can't let it drive you crazy. And it's just a matter of calmness. Pros have been in the game longer, I think. That allows them to stay calmer when things go lousy.
When the Joes are on a losing streak, they should dial it down, but they ramp it up and bet more.
Yeah, and this is, as a bookie, I remember back in my days as a bookie, this was the biggest mistake people made. They would bet more when they're losing. And when they're winning and they're seeing things clearly, let's protect our gains. Let's protect our gains. And the pros do the exact opposite. All right, when you're seeing things clearly, when you're in a good form and good rhythm, that's the time to step up your wager size. Your bankroll is growing. You're allowed to raise your wager sizes when your bankroll is growing. And then, of course, when you're ice cold and you can't pick a winner and nothing is making sense and the games aren't jumping off the page at you, that's not the time to step up your wager size. Joes do it the exact opposite, the way that pros do it, and it hurts them.
Joes lose on parlays and teasers. How about pros?
Not so much. And we talked about teasers last week on our Wednesday deep dive. Next week, we'll talk about how pros beat parlays, which is supposedly the biggest square bet out there. There are parlay strategies that absolutely work. We'll share them with you next Wednesday, right here on SportsBit's Deep Dive.
Yep, Thursday, big game breakdown, the marquee college games. Friday, the NFL. Money time, play of the day, back to USC and Utah. Teddy, what are we doing?
Let's go to game number 310, the Utah Utes, minus a field goal, -3 at the current number. Remember, the Utes were 6-0. They were ranked number 3 in the country when they went to USC last year. They lost that game by 18. Revenge. And this year, Utah's the better team at home. And how do we say this politely? USC hasn't shown much intestinal fortitude in their first 2 road games. They've been gutless. I don't think that necessarily changes. Troy Williams, 20 for 28, 257 yards at San Jose State last week, and ready to come into his own as the Utes QB. The price is cheap. Utah, -3, Friday night. That's our play of the day.
All right, very good. Again, thanks for all the views. Thanks for watching every day. We'll talk to you Thursday on SportsBit. We'll get to all the big college games coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.